Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another live showcase here with the Innovators Supreme at Veco and Eurolink. And we are delighted to have one of their biggest and best clients on board, Ocean, as well. John and Scott are joining us from Ocean Home. How are you? You both well?
Very well, thank you, Simon.
Yeah, very well, thank you, Simon.
And Richard and Dan joining us in a very dandy boardroom there, as it says on the side. How's everything going down there?
Yeah, we're great. Thanks, Simon. Yeah, all fine. Yeah, all good. All good. Lots going on.
Okay. Great stuff. Well, what's going on is very much the thing we're here to talk about today, isn't it? You've got some quite exciting couple of innovations you've come up with recently. The guys have been stress testing it and using it as well, and we're going to obviously tap into what their thoughts are on that. But the key element is how is Veco driving innovation in the property sector? Would you just give us a kind of just a bit of an overview, Rich, of what we're going to be talking about here today?
Yeah, sure. So we've been working on a couple of things recently, but one of the things we're going to talk about today is voice search. Statistically, it's off the charts, and we sort of noticed this and started talking about it. You and I had a conversation about it a while back, but the updated stats are just compounding the fact that we all need to start to look at this. We all need to consider it as part of our offering. We've built some Alexa skills. Great place to start. Their stats are the best. Their engagement stats are the best. But we're sort of interested in obviously looking at where it fits with traditional search, where it fits in for agents, letting agents, estate agents. How can they best use it to pitch themselves? But we're focusing more now all the time at Eurolink on the consumer journey. We think that's the next stage of where CRMs are going to need to be, and making sure that consumer journey is a good one.
And just so we understand, isn't it? Because there's always a kind of an interesting adoption curve, isn't there? Things often start off being a bit of a kind of wow factor, a sort of, maybe even almost slightly frivolous rather, and then they kind of develop onto us and being quite niche. It strikes me though we're right on the cusp of this wave in terms of where we all know individually we're using these on a day-to-day basis. I asked you for some of those stats, Rich, and to be fair, you came back with some absolutely outstanding ones showing that Google research showing 65% of 25 to 49-year-olds speak to their voice-enabled devices at least once a day, while 78% of smart speaker owners search for local businesses on a weekly basis, with 46% saying they perform these searches daily. If you're not on board with that, well, you're clearly missing out, aren't you?
Absolutely. I think the only other one to mention there is that there's 86% of under 54-year-olds have used some sort of digital device with voice in the last month, and that's going up about 5% per quarter. So, like you say, if we're not looking at it, why aren't we looking at it? And yeah, adoption has always been difficult in our sector, and you know that as well as I do. We were talking about, or we were being asked for client portals, consumer portals back in the year 2000, and it was a long time before that was really embraced. But I think voice search is moving at such a pace that we felt we had to do something. And Dan as head of product next to me here, my colleague Dan, he got one of the devs looking into this a little while back, and that's that's where it came from, really.
I like the fact that Dan is clearly still coding in the background. That's pretty impressive, Dan. Don't let me stop you. Okay, and talk to us as well about the Lone Worker app as well, because obviously there's a few different angles we're coming at today, aren't there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, just like the voice search, I'm interested to hear what John and Scott have to say about this. But look, we all know that it's a vulnerability, in the industry. It's a cause for concern that we as an industry have so many instances of lone working. And I think there's only so much you can do. You can't do a risk assessment for every single landlord or vendor meeting, every single viewing, every single inspection. But we just felt there were checks and measures that could be put in place. And we've already got a mobile working app called Connect. And we built, and again, Dan and Dan's team, they built some lone worker protocols into that Dan can explain better than I can why, how they did that. But, it was just something we felt a duty of care to our clients in their duty of care to their staff and colleagues. And we just thought it was the, the appropriate and right thing to do. And we just bolted it into an already available Android and iOS app.
I want to just catch up, John and Scott. One of the things that, again, the stats the guys came back to me with, which those other stats were more illuminating and encouraging. These ones jumped at me in a very different way. Recent research from Stay Safe reveals that 65% of estate agents, property and facilities management have had an incident in the past 3 years. And 17% of companies take no action after a health and safety incident, with only 45% of lone workers feeling that their managers have suitably addressed their safety concerns. That's some worrying. That's some worrying stats in there, isn't it, John?
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Luckily we haven't had anything that I can think of in the last 3 years that has created those, can back up those stats. But it's definitely something that is scary. And I think for anyone, any part of the business, from the guys at the front end on the letting side, viewings late at night on their own, property that's empty, you have that side all the way through to the property management teams doing the inspections, and again, property they don't know, doing checkouts, doing the check-ins, even things in the office on their own, trying to catch up, do it late at night, and even if they're not working in the front offices, which where mainly the windows are, the back offices, it being locked in, setting off the alarms by mistake, or someone coming to the door that they're not aware of. It's stats which is scary, and I think it's maybe not in just the estate agency lettings business, it's across everything. Working from home, I'm at home today on my own, but there will be other people that will be working in offices maybe a bit later on at night on their own. And especially, that last viewing at night, the neg that wants to get that one deal through to hit their monthly target, which get their quarterly target, they'll go that little bit extra. You want to see it at 6:30? Yeah, I'll do that. But do they know the property? They've been told about it. They've been there. They've been briefed on where everything is, what they should do. But then they're meeting someone who you've done your due diligence on. You've got their contact details. You've got their name. You've got their number. You've got their email. You've spoken to them, confirmed the details. But you've never met that person. And I think something that Veco has done and brought this the checking in, checking out of an appointment, so you can literally when you get to the appointment, you're there. When you finished it, you finished. The guys can see that in real time onto their the PCs in the work, the laptops, and also their mobile devices if someone else is out of the office. The best bit for me, which I've been very happy with and been talking to Richard and Dan for a while about, is the sort of SOS help, which is literally by just shaking the phone, and then it pops up on anyone using the software gets literally a pop up, X needs help.
Because it came up the other day, actually, on one of our podcasts, we were talking about, there was actually a security, we were talking just about specifically about security. So it's brilliant. We can have this follow-up now to talk about it. And one of the guys was talking about how she turned up at an appointment, and it was clear the fellow was completely drunk, but she only realised that once she was on the other side of the door, and he was, stood kind of blocking her ability to do anything. And the only thing guaranteed to antagonise, wouldn't it, would be to pick up the phone and try and ring out if that was the way it was going there. So to be able to have thought that through logically, to have that shake functionality there, which would be, far easier to manage without, if anything, is a really clever idea and everything else. And I think, look, hopefully, it's not like these things happen every day, but that's the whole point about insurance, things, isn't it? It's protecting that 1 in a million chance when it's bound to happen. And unfortunately for us, the nature of a state agency does expose itself, doesn't it, to that? It's not like you normally go tag teamed with a colleague, is it? So, yes, you can sometimes do, you can do due diligence in their head, but the numbers we're all having to hit on a monthly and yearly basis normally preclude that.
Yeah, back in the day, I mean, I've been doing this job now 27 years. We used to have, we used to work at the same company with Scott 26, 27 years ago. And we used to have an office mobile. And if you were the last person at night and the last viewing, you took the office mobile with you. Yeah. And once you finished, you just literally had to phone one of your colleagues, either if they had a mobile, if they were lucky, or their home number. Yeah. Literally just phone and go, yeah, I'm okay, bang. Because you only did it 5 seconds. So you used to get billed for every 30 seconds you used it. Yeah. But that was back then, that was the only thing that you had. And you didn't have, not many people had mobiles. There was no email. You literally were just taking someone's name, address, and a phone number. And that was it. Normally, it's a work number. You could back that up.
How big was that answer?
You have to wind up on the side,
the reason it was safe, we just need to hit them with that, and there was no problem anymore.
But anyway. Just behind the door, used to block them; they wouldn't be able to come in. You see, that's fine.
So how does the voice search, for example, help keep the staff safe? Somebody give me context around that.
I mean, voice search is obviously completely separate. There's no sort of safeguarding around that side of it. It was just a case of, look, what are we doing at the moment in terms of innovation? One side of that is the safeguarding, which we've talked about. And yeah, I mean, again, Dan will probably explain better how that actually works. But why did we look at that, or how did we look at the kind of the safeguarding element? What was the approach?
And I'd also just be interested to know, was it Dan as well? Was it something you guys thought up, or did you have client feedback and it was kind of it was led by that? Was this inspired by yourselves, or where did it come from?
Pretty much everything we do is client inspired. Simon, again, you will know that's where the majority of our features and functionality come from. But since we've delivered it, what we've been interested in is actually people have said their families are a lot happier that they have the functionality. They can relax a bit. I was talking to a client who, she was quite heavily pregnant, and she said her partner was relieved that they now had that functionality. It made him feel comfortable that was in place. So yeah, I mean, it's we go back a long way with these users, so we probably feel a little bit more of a duty of care than most. 30 years on the block, you get to know people pretty well over that time, and their families even. So I think it goes a little bit deeper than the normal type of client-supplier relationship.
The other thing is, Richard, you're far more modest than I ever was. I used to listen to the clients' ideas and then shamelessly steal them and claim them as my own. But I know you're a very different business to what I was on there. So Dan, just talk us through from your point of view.
So it was a natural progression more than anything else. We already had the application available, or the mobile app available, and we knew it was a client concern or an industry concern that Rich has mentioned. So there are other apps regarding personal safeguarding out there, but to actually make it integral in something we've already got available just made sense to us. You as probably Scott and John know, and most other people, that you can flood your business with different bits of prop tech or bits of technology that all got to work together. You don't want to have another form of communication. If you can put it or integrate what you've already got, it made perfect sense for us. So to put it into an app that they would already be using if you're out on a viewing or an appraisal or an inspection or whatever you are, to already put it into that application, and the most important, make it so simplistic to use. You could use it in your pocket. You can shake the device in your pocket, press that you're uncomfortable, you're in a precarious situation, and it will alert all your colleagues that maybe it's just a phone call that will diffuse whatever position that you're in. But ultimately, it was trying to put it into an already existing application, so it's just something the guys could use.
And Scott, from your point of view, how important was it? Because you're quite right, obviously, that one of the problems, in fact, one of the reasons that kerfuffle exists is that tech stacks in agency can quite often not look like a stack, but a Jenga pile. It's just, there's a little bit here, but that cobbled on, and it's as stable as that. How important is it from your point of view that this is actually built into that most important of things, the CRM system that, most of your staff will be the first thing they log into and the last thing they log out at night?
Yeah, we as a business, as much like a consumer, it's path of least resistance. We want everything in one place, ease of use. and it's it sits perfectly with, as I say, within the system, and does the job. I say in terms of tech, there's an awful lot of people with some fantastic ideas out there, but unfortunately, you can't piece all of this stuff together and expect it to commercially work and be viable. So for it all to sit in the one CRM system, as you guys have been saying, we're exposed to the general public. The general public, whatever percentages of normal, dangerous, etc., people that are out there, alcoholics, the lot, we're going to bump into them at some point. And then there are the issues that would happen with the property as well. Locks failing, turn the shower on, shower won't turn off, all sorts of weird and wonderful things that we'll have come across in the 20 odd years. And then chuck the people in there as well. So, from a user point of view, tech, it's important to have it all in the one place. I'm sure that I've bored Richard senseless over the years about my ideas for what should be included in Veco and tech and stuff like that. But that's why I'm a letting agent and I'm not sat with Richard and Dan.
I always used to talk about you guys as being high maintenance, but I meant it in a nice way. But maybe that's why I'm not in that particular job anymore. But anyway, how well has it been adopted by the staff, Scott? Do they see this as really beneficial? Do they see it as onerous? What's the feedback been from your teams?
I think again, different people approach risk in different ways. There will be individuals who it makes them feel more comfortable with the role that they're doing. It's kind of unmeasurable. People don't come up to you and tell you that they feel unsafe in the job that they're doing. But if you can create an environment where they don't feel exposed, so it's welcomed. In terms of its use, as John has alluded to, predominantly the usual touching points, late viewings, people, offices shut, that acknowledgement that everything's fine. Equally empty properties. It's a useful tool. It has its place, and the staff. I think it's fair to say, the days of, as you say, massive mobile phone that you could use as a weapon or a rape alarm, or that's. It's not going to help you if you've got an aggressive, difficult position where you want to discreetly make somebody aware that you need a bit of a hand. It's a very valuable tool, and it's very well received by our teams.
And it can only, luckily, it's not one of these things that, one of these, again, prop techs, you only need one more listing to pay for this. And it's all about, prospecting and winning business. Or this is clearly just to do one job, to look after the staff. And they've got to be at least vaguely appreciative that you're going out there as you are, that the CRM provider is even thinking about this angle there. It's good to see that there's that social dimension.
Absolutely. Yeah, they understand the role. They have an understanding of what we're dealing with. This is really useful, and it's a great little addition that's provided by the guys because they know what we're doing.
Perfect.
The other thing, Simon, but look, we're talking about two sort of innovations today. But the one we're talking about here, we hope it's never used.
Yeah, I was going to say. It's really bizarre thing, isn't it? You don't want this to ever have been used, and touch wood, it is never needed. But again, that importance of that's why you have the insurance policy in place, don't you?
Exactly. And the flip side, though, is voice search. We can only assume that by the stats that it will be used constantly by the consumer, and this is more marketing approach. This is more of an extension to their existing search. The consumer, they're going to go to Rightmove, Zoopla, On the Market, Booming, etc. They're going to go to Ocean Homes website. They're going to look in their local free rag or magazine or whatever. But ultimately, as you said at the start of this show, the stats are saying that they're searching for local businesses. They're searching for things on these devices. So that is something that we are more excited about, if you like, than the lone worker scenario, which is I just think crucial. This is something that we're just excited about, and is a great add-on for our clients to pitch their wares against the next agent down the road.
Yeah. So how important do you think it's going to be on that basis? Is it because one of the nice things, I suppose, isn't it? And John and Scott will be able to tell me probably better. But it's, when you're looking at tech and you've got so many different areas you want to, where it seems obvious is you want something that's going to differentiate you, make you stand out from the crowd, isn't it? Potentially will actually win you business, rather than having to invest in something just because you're keeping up with the Joneses. There's not much excitement in that. So that sounds like in this area you're truly going to be, able to wow the public and your potential clients on this basis.
Well, as you'll know, Simon, it's important to differentiate yourself from the competition. It's important to create unique selling points. And if you can sit down in front of a client and you can actively search for, on their Alexa or smart device, you can actively search for comparable properties and listings come up. They're sat there, and it's the value that they feel that adds. I want to use this agent because this agent can use voice search, whereas the other agent, I'd lay that trapdoor for the next agent to walk into and say, look, we can do this. Why don't you ask my competitors if they can talk to Alexa too and see what happens? And we find, then we roll out the stats. We find that 85% of people under the age of, I think it was 54, have used voice over search in the last month. I used it last night to check what the weather was like in Tenerife. So, it's just this stuff that it's building into life. I'm sure that we've all sat in the car and spoken to our car to call somebody, and it's just bit by bit is becoming part of our everyday life, and people will expect that this is the way that things are done. We no longer want to type stuff in. We want to just talk, and it happens.
And that's the key point, is the expectation level, and unfortunately, actually, for you guys, you will be pretty much unique, apart from obviously other Veco users being able to use this as well in the marketplace. But you are being judged by the community as well, by the other businesses on the high street and indeed online, aren't you? And so if the other companies have the ability to do this, and suddenly in the world of estate agents, it feels like that's just, being caught in the past, isn't it? So it's great that you actually have this. And as you said, the everyday element there, we were talking about the under 54s. It's important. That's where obviously that's where the growth is and everything else. But it's not like in the over 54s, it's not being used. I have to stop. I think Alexa's going to ask for time off, having a conversation with my mom. She is just continually talking, pottering around the kitchen or whatever else, and talking to it on just a variety of different levels. So, it is becoming ubiquitous, isn't it, out there? And as I said, moving to that really useful stage, because let's face it, you can multitask, it's quicker. What's the reason not to use it, basically? Look, so talk to us about other case studies there, guys, in terms of how you anticipate people are going to be using this.
I think from our side, as Scott's just said, I think from the landlord side, it's going to be a big, where we use it and where we're making distinguishing ourselves between the other agents. I think from our side as well, we have an estate agency side, and I think moving forward, it will definitely. Not moving forward, it is, and I think it'll be a bigger side on the sales side, because you'll see as you're driving along, you can literally press your button. As Scott just said, you can press the certain button on your steering wheel. It enables Alexa to search via your mobile phone, and you can say, search sale house, postcode, price, because you've just seen a board, and up it pops. It literally will say, the high street in, White Ladies Road, Clifton, Bristol, 2-bedroom flat, £375,000. Do you want to hear more? Yes. And it's, as you're going, oh, great, I can see that and go. I think with the market on the letting side is a little bit unique at the moment, where properties are probably only being listed once they've been let. So it's a bit of a catch-22. I think on the sales side, it's something that will really move forward, and I think is being used more. And I think that's definitely an area where it can be used, where on the move, walking down the road, oh, there's a board, done. and it can be done very, very quickly. Even just a quick tap of your earphone, and then you're through to it. So it's an amazing bit of kit and tech that they've just have brought out. That's why. So it's very, very good.
Well, that sounds excellent. And we've got James here just commented and reiterating what you're saying. Our entire house is Alexa enabled. We've used voice activated typing for years and years, and agencies slowly catching up. I think thanks James for that point there as well, isn't it? There are, there's so many people out there in that scenario of having this expectation, and that's used, and that ability to impress them could just be the difference between standing out from the crowd, isn't it? Again, okay, that's really, really useful there. So, just so I understand this, the images and everything else that you will get back and everything else there, can you see them on compatible advice? I suppose this is one for you, Dan and Richard, isn't it?
Yeah, so if you've got an image-enabled device, so if you're running an Alexa app on your phone, it will return the primary image with your summary description and, well, again, a call to action to see if you want to see more. Obviously, if you're using a dot or something that's just speaker, it will just read out what you're seeing, and you obviously won't see an image associated with it. So we tried to incorporate sort of the range of devices that you have available without making it overly complicated.
Yeah, we've got in front of me, over half Alexa and Google users now use voice on devices with screens. So the stats we've talked about, throw that into the mix. Now the screens are up there. So when you're getting details back on a Alexa-enabled device with a screen, you get the main photo of the property. So as John said, I guess the case study is what you're looking for, Simon. I don't know. I'm driving home from work. I see a board. You've got to promote the fact that it's there. Obviously, our agents have to promote the fact that there is a Ask Alexa, the open sales properties, open lettings properties. We've turned ours off in the boardroom, by the way, because it'd be going mad on this conversation. But you're driving home, you see the board, you get back, you subliminally, it's in your head. I don't know, you're doing the washing up. You can continue your search whilst you're washing up. It literally is that simple. And it asks you 5 killer questions. You get your properties, and obviously you get similar properties as well. So if, like in any property search, we're all trying to serve up similar properties that we think the consumer will also be interested in. The beauty of this is it's taking you to ocean properties in their case, not all of the properties. So it's getting you to the agent that you've noticed, that you've seen, who have advertised this feature, maybe use it to differentiate themselves, as the guys have said in lettings. We see it, working on both sides of the agency fence. In fact, we'll drop a demo to you on the sales side after this, Simon. Maybe you can get attached to the post-production video, because it's just very, very simple. There's not a lot to talk about. Well, who's the agent? What's your budget? How many bedrooms? And what's the start of the postcode? It gets you what you want, and it returns the results that are sat in the Veco database of that particular client.
But that, your point there as well with the sale board though, Rich, is spot on, isn't it? As well, who would have thought that QR codes would have made the bounce back that they have done? But this has the ability to deliver every bit of functionality that they kind of do on the back of that, without having to have those, let's be honest, pretty ugly old, the QR codes themselves up plastered everywhere.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Scott, from lettings, what are you looking forwards to seeing how it develops in that particular part of the business?
Well, as John said, from the market from a tenant point of view at the moment is a bit dysfunctional. The development that I see is very much in terms of creating that point of difference between ourselves and other agents. I think it's an instruction winner. As I say, ultimately, as things move forward and this becomes more and more part of all of our daily lives in terms of, basically requesting things verbally as opposed to typing them, I see this developing. I see tenants engaging with it. As I say, unfortunately, at the moment, particularly in Bristol, the vast majority of properties that get listed are already let. So it would. But the principle holds. You'd still be searching for properties in a voice activated way. If you're in work, you can talk to a device, as Richard says, in terms of the visual stuff. If you can call it up by talking to stuff without having to type it, all of us are are fascinated with the property market in this country. Look, you go away for the weekends and to the coast, and then you want to see how much it costs to live there. So, you're sat there and you can talk to your phone, or you can talk to your laptop or iPad, and it can come up. So, I see there as being a big development. It's not a gimmick. It's certainly something that will grow and grow and grow. And obviously, the value to the agent that's using a system that can do it is immense.
It is, and does it feel like it's a differentiate out there when your guys are on appointments at the moment? What's the feedback you're getting back at the moment?
Well, the guys initially were nervous in using it. You don't want to sit down in somebody's house and start talking to their Alexa, and it doesn't work because you're going to lose. You're going to look pretty weird. But Richard very kindly gave myself and John quite a lot of Alexa dots. And so they're dotted around our offices. And what the guys and girls will do before they go out on evaluation is they'll test run it. So when they go in and they sit down, they know it's going to work. Although it did tell me in Tenerife yesterday it was 4 degrees, which I was a bit disappointed with. So Alexa got that bit wrong. But thus far, in terms of property searches, it's going very well.
The good thing about the search facility, it allows the last bit is that you can share your details. So you don't even have to input. You don't have to then say your name. My mobile number. Because it's already in your phone, it shares it with us, and that's the real, for me, something that's just really just so slick. Contact agent, share details. Yes, bang, it's done. Yeah. And that's where least resistance. That's where we really like to get it, because even if it's on the sales side or the letting side, more on the sales side, because it normally has a flip business. If someone wants to look at your house, you can then get hopefully the valuation, and just having someone's name, number, just to talk to nurture that relationship, to get to you want to see this property, not a problem at all. Bam, bam, let's come have a look at yours. And it flips business and business and business, and it's just such a great bit of kit from that. Do you want? Yes, and it's done. And then for us, it's us to create and just take that to the next step, so we can then maybe get the business from selling their property, or say more on the sales side than lettings. Not many tenants that will have a property to let out themselves, but it's just building relationships, and actually the old-fashioned way of speaking to someone to then get them to the next stage.
Yeah, it's personalizing a digitized journey, isn't it? Essentially, which is what we're all looking to do as much as anything. And I suppose it's obvious there, that ability, driving it back to your own website is a big plus as well, isn't it? Keeping them on essentially your own ecosystem rather than bouncing off onto the portals and going elsewhere again from there. From a technical point of view, Dan, in terms of the data and everything else that's being driven from this, how does it all work just on that side of things?
It's actually incredibly simple. Your CRM is always sending off data to your own website. For instance, you're listing properties on your own website. This is just taking the same feed in the same format and just pointing it at another place. It's only when we then get onto sort of the Amazon skill element that we're plugging that data in for it to then allow it to work. So the reason we kind of undertook this was it's another form of marketing. You have window cards, you have rolling screens, you have portals, you have websites. It's just a natural progression of how you market. So to take what you would put on your website and deploy it into an environment which is controlled by voice rather than typing, seemed, I don't want to say no-brainer, but it seemed like a natural progression in how the market will go, and the stats suggest we are going to use it more and more. So to actually put a solution we already had available into another medium was, again, like I said, a no-brainer.
It's like rolling screens, or in the window. There's no different really, as Dan says. But I guess this is actually interestingly something to contradict what I said earlier. This wasn't asked for. This was something that we just recognised as technology we needed to be looking at, and it was an opportune chance, wasn't it? We had a break in a developer sprint plan that was unexpected and we out of our control, and Dan redeployed that developer to investigate, and the rest is short-term history. And just to pick up on John's point, we know again statistically people are far more inclined to engage after a voice search than they are from any other search. So again, it's it just lends itself to have it really a necessity to provide this type of marketing, as Dan put it.
Now that's really interesting, isn't it? And I suppose that says a lot for the medium, doesn't it? If that engagement level, there's loads of vanity stats out there in terms of, you can be getting hits, but ultimately what you're looking for is somebody to be, to feel that need to engage further. So you're able to see that now, are you? That you're getting those great levels of engagement.
These independent stats. In fact, we'll also drop you a press release we did recently, just this time last month. Again, perhaps attach it to this the post production of this video, because it's not us saying it. It's statistically that's what it is.
Yeah, excellent.
It's independent. It's an independent company who's done the recent research, which backs up what I said to you last time. We were thinking about this. We were looking at this. We were refining it. We were working on it internally. So it's come out of the lab now and into the into the client, and that's the bit that we're excited about.
But the crucial thing is as well, marketers talk about being omni-channel, isn't it? And this is it feels wrong to even call it a niche, isn't it? When you look at the actual way that the traffic's going anyway. In terms of everything else. Well, you've probably just seen there a couple of people just commenting on Facebook said it's very cool. Somebody else going on to say, back in the day, a business website was considered a gimmick. Now it's a necessity. Voice search functionality of the world is going as a material alternative channel. Great user case. So that's nice to hear about that. Obviously, people are feeling that way. And obviously, as we said, look, either go to their the Veco page on kerfuffle.com or reach out to the guys direct and learn a bit further more. We'll certainly share out to the other channels we're on now as well when we've got that. I think seeing that demo would be really, really useful to understand everything as well going on there. And just Richard and Dan, from your point of view, though, where do you see, I mean, apart from, I suppose, the explosive growth is going to be the obvious one, where do you see this kind of technology going in the near future?
Who knows? I mean, it is where it is now. We've embraced it. And once, again, it's like anything. Once you're on that ladder, I mean, we've already refined it since, as I said, since it sort of got out of the lab, so to speak. Because what we realised is you needed to plug into an area, you needed to plug into a postcode, or certainly the prefix of a postcode. Otherwise, obviously larger agents with multiple offices across multiple regions, you're going to be returning all sorts. So it's a case of listening to users, listening to those case studies, and saying, how can we refine it? How can we improve it? But for me, the simplicity is the key to it.
Yeah.
And the guys, anyone interested will see how simple it is on the demonstration video.
Even Simon Whale could work it, I think you said to me a while ago, which was, as I said, if my mum can do it, anyone can. So that's important. John and Scott, it must be nice having these guys in your corner, isn't it? I mean, I know it's often trite. You have so many suppliers to the business and everything else there, but often when you get close relationships, it becomes more of a partnership, doesn't it? And having these guys just thinking about this innovation in the background, I mean, you've already they're one of the few providers that does a combined sales and lettings package, and knowing your lettings operation is so serious that to be able to bring those two elements together was probably, you'll admit, one of the key reasons. But just to see this constant innovation coming out on this area must make you feel comfortable that you've got the right company.
Absolutely. I mean, the lettings division of Ocean, we started in 2004, and we went out into the marketplace, had 3 demos, and actually it was Richard's wife that came to pitch us, and we just felt that not telling us what to do was what other software companies are doing. Nicola listened. She actually asked, what do we want to do? Where do we want to go? Gave us some ideas, put the pitch together. Not not necessarily the cheapest, but it was the one that was the right one. And over that time, we have, Ocean, Simon, you've come and sat in a boardroom with us, and in your previous employers, and pitched.
I've been chased out of there more times I can remember.
So we have looked over the years, but we've always stayed with Veco because they are forward thinking. They will listen. They will, Rich, myself and Dan, and other people previously, we will talk and say, have you heard of this? And they go, yeah, we've heard of this. Yeah, some of our other clients are using it. What's it like? Yeah, really good. And then we'll go and have a look at it. And then the guys at Veco will phone us and say, what do you think of this? And we'll say, yeah, I can see that. Or have you thought of how this would flip onto this? Or how would this? Oh, no, we haven't thought of that. And then it builds it. So in the end, I'm glad we have these guys in our corner, because it helps us be efficient. It helps us. One thing that they have, which we haven't touched upon, which is a complete different kettle of fish, is automation. They are the market leader in it, and they help us just keep our business going on the sort of the legality side, the compliance, without really doing much. So I'm always glad when these guys will speak to us and say, well, we're thinking of doing this. What do you think? It's like, yeah, great. Yeah, we'll try it. We'll have it. And it's fantastic, to be honest.
Yeah, the automation engine is a very clear secret sauce element of what Veco is about. I remember looking at moving over one of your clients. I can admit this to you now, Rich. And then we went through the automation engine that you built for them. Look, I'm a big lad anyway, so sweating is something I do a lot. But I couldn't cope with. I ran out of that room. The efficiencies you can get off the back of that automation in a business the size of Ocean is incredible, isn't it?
I'm just going to say, just to put it into context, guys, do you mind saying sort of how many units you've got under management at the moment?
Not a problem. Scott, do you want to say, or shall I?
1,600 managed units currently. It is as it should do. It grows. I think we were around 1,400 last year, and even notwithstanding a lot of landlords and landladies being convinced or persuaded to leave the market. Well, that's a completely different subject. But yeah, no, 1,600, and I think it's fair to say the economies of scale that we get from Veco enables us to be far, far more efficient. I won't name the other companies that myself and John have spoken to in the past who tell us about their tech and how it can help our business. And we often sit there and think, well, do other agents actually use this? Because why would you use this when it can all be done with Veco? So yeah, I think it's fair to say we told the guys at Veco we have one person in our accounts team. And when you speak to other software providers and they don't run the automates, they don't have the functionality that Veco has, and you talk to companies of a similar size and they have 4 or 5 people in accounts, that gives you an idea of the scales that we can achieve.
I mean, that above and beyond anything else, just on that basis, isn't it? That ability to be, because you get to want, you've got 2 options when you're looking after that serious amount of properties there. You've either got a massive headache because you're trying to then manage that and everything else, and got those inefficiencies of extra staff members, or you actually are able to get the economies of scale. That means you can do things better at a cheaper rate and a more efficient rate, and hopefully as well at a better service level standard for your landlords and your tenants off the back of that. So that's when it becomes particularly exciting, when you see all that fitting together, and you just think of that extra head count you've just highlighted there. 6-figure sums just go walking out the door each, and adding. That's the point, isn't it? Adding nothing else. Because it's not like, just because there are people there, they will be doing it better. In many cases, as we know, the efficiency and the accuracy comes from the systems like Veco itself.
Yeah.
How, just as a matter of interest, Scott, how, obviously, quite often there's like Chinese walls developed between sales and lettings departments anyway. But obviously, we've always believed that knocking down those walls by having a central system like Veco helps. You obviously... You weren't particularly happy about those landlords choosing to sell and everything else, but the flow between the departments has to be improved, doesn't it, by having that central repository? Yeah,
absolutely. Look, the sales and lettings, if you strip out all the usual inter-industry nonsense, ultimately what we're doing is we're dealing with a property journey. And from time to time, landlords will sell and then they'll buy, and so it needs to work both ways. It takes a long time to build a property portfolio, so we're always sad when our clients decide to sell up and maybe realise some capital, or maybe it's the tax efficient thing to do. But yeah, the way in which a system can enable two sides of the business to talk. John talked about when we've looked at other systems that are out there. Veco, for me, are market leaders on the letting side of things. It's an incredibly complex. Nobody seems to be able to get anywhere near these guys, and yeah, it's great to be partnered up with them.
Great. And Rich, give us context as well from ballpark. Do you know how many sort of managed properties you look across the group? Because I mean, as well as having massively strong independents like Ocean here, you've got corporates as well, haven't you? I mean, it's I've always known you've developed from the letting side as well. What does it look like across the client base as a whole? You've got some serious experience in there, haven't you?
Yeah, I would say on the lettings properties and what we call active properties. So we refer to properties being active. So in sales, they're either on the market or they're going through sales progression. Lettings, they've got any number of active criteria attached to them. But it's around about 500,000 at any one time. So we've got about 500,000 properties sat on Veco databases at any one time, give or take. So that's where we are at the moment. Obviously, we want to grow that. That's what we're always striving towards. But yeah, I just wanted these guys to mention their numbers just to give some context to our conversation today, really. And it's very fascinating with the things they've said, and we do appreciate it. It's a good partnership we've got with Ocean, as John said. There's a good handful of people we will go to when we've got some ideas, or ideas are coming in and we want to bounce it off them. And certainly John and Scott are great for that. Scott particularly is very opinionated and challenges us really, really hard. And you need that. There's no point in going to the people who are just going to say, yeah, that sounds great, get on with it, do it. You want the people who are gonna give you going to make you walk the hard yards, and these guys certainly do. And we're very happy to be in partnership with them.
No, you need the pushback, don't you? You need the pushback and the challenging to keep it going forwards. And if you listen to people like Scott and John and Ocean and everything else, when you've got an exciting client base by that, and that's why I asked you, Rich, for the context around it, because there's no problem you won't have seen. The scalability point, which is important, because Scott needs to know that as he hit 1,000 properties under management, as he hits 2,000 and beyond, that you've got a system that can more than cope with that. And as we know, there are many packages out there that can cope quite, comfortably with up to a couple of hundred, and suddenly, it starts to get a little bit tasty, let's just say, as you start going beyond those smaller numbers. So that's why, again, the context I think was so important. Guys, okay, well, look, I mean, absolutely fantastic. Sounds like obviously there's clearly the trust between both businesses is really good to see, and it's not sometimes it's an uneasy relationship, isn't it? We often hear PropTech said with a little bit more of a sneer, but you guys started in the good old days when it was estate agency and letting software, as we were known there. So that's good to hear. Great bit of innovation here today. I think obviously congratulations on the on the lone worker one. That's a really important thing, and there, touch wood, it's never needed to be done. But the fact that you're looking after your staff, and of course to Ocean as well, looking after their own people, that's great news there. And just staying on the innovation curve, Dan. That's great to see. I bet that developer was happy, wasn't he? He got kind of a Google special project, didn't he? Just to be taken aside and done on that. But keep it up. And I want to say today, John, Scott from Ocean, thank you very much. Richard and Dan, pleasure to have you on as usual, and look forward to catching up with you all in the future.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.